Welcome back to Drive, Wrench, and Repeat. We are still going with the 135. We did a ton of maintenance stuff to this car. Obviously, we took care of the top side, the front, all the oil leak potential areas, parts. We got to it. And then we actually replaced the oil pan gasket, the water pump, as well as the downpipe installation. So what's really left? We did a bunch of the wear and tear items, but we need to make some upgrades. The downpipe was number one, right? Before we get to the MHD tune, but we also need to replace the front mount intercooler. And we're gonna pull the intercooler out first, and then we need to do some cutting to the bumper. But we're gonna show you all that stuff, and then we're gonna do a comparison of the big VRSF 7.5 competition intercooler versus the stock intercooler, and the comparison of how the difference in size and the flow of that versus this. And that's an all aluminum design versus this one, which the stock one's gonna have plastic end tanks. That's what we really wanna replace. We wanna get to, you know, really foolproofing this car, right? We don't want to do that later when we're starting to make a lot of power, when the car is tuned. We want to get to the full bolt-on stage, stage 2, stage 2 plus. It does require a front mount intercooler, and that's what we're going to do today. Let's get to what we have in store. So VRSF, when you buy this kit, they're gonna give you a couple of silicone couplers, right? And the silicone couplers are really great because they slide on relatively easy, right? And this one actually goes on the other side, but it slides on really easy. They supply you with these clamps, which seem very well made. And of course, we're gonna slide these on before we put these on, but it's just kind of showing you what we need to do in order to connect it to the existing pipe. We're gonna need to do some cutting to the bumper to fit this big boy in there, but we're gonna position the clamp so that we can get to it easily once the bumper is on or off, so that we're not struggling with it. But really well-made clamps. And then obviously we're getting rid of the plastic connecting pipes. This is an aluminum piece, powder coated, looks pretty nice. We're just gonna figure out how this actually goes, because I know that this goes like this. I don't know if the longer piece goes like this or the shorter piece. I'm assuming it's the longer piece to get to the charge pipe here. And I have an aftermarket charge pipe. I have a Cobb's aftermarket charge pipe, which is a great upgrade, right? The plastic charge pipe, it gets destroyed even on stock boost. So that's already upgraded. We have a burger intake. Now we're doing the front mount intercooler. We already did the VRSF downpipe. This is kind of the last piece of the full bolt-on. And then we're gonna tune, and then we're gonna go up against that M2 competition. We'll see if we get close. Like I said, the 135 is not an M car, but full bolt-on should give it about 100 plus in the horsepower department. And we'll see. I mean, I'm really curious. I'm sure Daniel's curious. I'm sure you guys are really curious how this car's gonna do 160,000 miles. We're addressing all the weak points to the car. It does have the mileage. We already sent the oil to Blackstone for oil analysis. We'll see what the health of the oil is, and the engine, obviously, right? But let's go ahead and put this on, and we'll show you a step-by-step on how that's done. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna peel back this piece here just to make sure that there isn't anything hiding behind this that's still holding it on, because the last thing you wanna do is try to rip your bumper off and it doesn't really come off. So if you see in here, there is a 8mm that's kind of hiding in there, right there. And that's going to be true for even the 335i, like the E90 platform. You're going to have very similar bolts that are holding it on. We're gonna have to remember what this little piece is, but that just looks like a piece of plastic of the wheel fender liner. Maybe this piece came off, but I'm gonna make sure to kind of remember that. Go. This is for your headlight washers. I don't know how useful this is, but you got to take that off first, guys. There you go. Should go back in. It's holding a lot of tension. There we go. All right, guys, now the bumper is off. Okay. But here is the intercooler, the stock. As you can see, it's sitting right underneath the radiator. What we're gonna have to trim is all this stuff. This has to go in order to make this intercooler, make the VRSF intercooler fit. So let's get to removing this first. I'm gonna have to get underneath of the car. So let's look at what we're seeing here. So I can see that this plastic piece has to come off. Just kind of turn it. Same on this side. And then this should kind of pop off. Oh, you okay?
Yeah,
you okay?
Yeah. I dodged it.
Oh gosh. Definitely stay away from when you're removing this piece. It's 160,000 miles of grime. I don't know if we need that piece, but let's go ahead. Sorry about that, Daniel. I had no idea that was going to happen. Okay. And we do need to remove this. Just gonna remove it completely so there's no guessing on whether we're gonna be able to. Okay, and then I'm gonna go to this side. Just watch your face, dude. Yep. Okay. Oop. Holy shit. Let's take a pause. Let's take a pause, Daniel. I'm gonna clean this off of you. Holy shit, dude. Holy shit. Okay. Okay, there we go. There we go. All right, first things first, we're gonna have to mock up the intercooler and look at where we need to cut on the bumper. the bumper shroud or the radiator support, whatever that thing is. One thorough explanation of why you need to replace this. This is probably adequate for a stock turbo with stock boost, but as you're adding on power, and you know, if you know what a turbocharger is, it's basically recycling engine exhaust to spin the turbocharger. So that air is extremely hot, and as it makes its way into the intercooler, that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to cool the charged air and put it back into the engine. More cooler air, more power, more reliable power. So that's what it's going to do. And it's not so much about that initial pull, it's about the consistency of the pulls, right? As you keep going and keep going and keep going and hammering on the car, it's going to consistently put out colder air. Versus this, you'll probably experience what's called a heat soak. It's just not big enough to handle that kind of volume, as well as the repetitive kind of, you know, push on your car. So let's mock this up, and we're gonna cut this. But as you can see, if we line it up here, right, and we bring it up to here, the thing about this intercooler is that it needs to come in front of the radiator. Okay, the step part needs to sit in front of the radiator, and that's what we need to kind of figure out. We're going to cut the sides first here. Okay, we made some markings here, and we're going to cut the sides here and make sure that the pipe's going to line up, and then we will try to trim this part, because I think we definitely need to cut this off. But there is that windshield washer fluid that's running for the headlight washer. So, and I also unplugged the IAT, which is right here. I think I'm gonna need to relocate this somewhere, maybe down by the air duct to the brakes, somewhere like this. I saw a couple of guys that did that. Maybe trying to zip tie it over here somewhere, like so, or make a drill hole and put it in like so. But we will need to relocate this if this is in the way, because it's kind of protruding down, and I don't want it to get smashed off. So I'm gonna leave that off to the side, and I've made some marks. So let's get cutting. Okay, we'll do a little cleanup here as we go. I know that we're gonna have to cut more, so let me cut this guy off. All right, so we got this piece off. Let's test fit the intercooler again and see how it lines up. This needed to completely come off. Now we're gonna test fit the intercooler. Let's clean up. So these aren't the cleanest cuts. I'm probably gonna clean this up a little more, or I may need to cut this a little more as well because of the step part, but that's how it goes. It's not gonna look pretty until we're kind of done. I'm gonna clean this up, but let me test fit. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna need to cut a little bit more. Yep, I'm probably gonna have to cut these nubs off here and here and here, just because I'm not getting, like, it stops me right there. And probably gonna have to trim a little more over here. I may need to cut even more, which is surprising because that means I'm gonna have to move this out of the way just to be safe. Even though I don't really care for headlight washing, I don't want to ruin it, so I'm gonna zip tie that up there. I don't want to put too much tension, but at least to lift it out of the way. I'm hoping I don't have to cut the entire thing off, but it looks like that may be the only way to actually fit. Let me see from here. Okay. I'm gonna do a quick mock-up and look from underneath. Did you see where it's hitting?
Yeah.
Is it hitting that top piece?
Yep. Try to push it towards your way a little bit more. This. Yeah, and then try to. Yeah, it's completely hitting everything here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I still need to go about half an inch up.
Can you push it more towards your way?
No. No. We gotta cut a little more.
Okay. Yeah.
But the pipe is like perfectly lined up.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I see where we need to cut.
Okay. Okay, so for one of the intercooler pipes, if you look right here, the side that has the turbocharger, right? Not the charge pipe side, but the turbo side, you're gonna have to cut this accordion piece off because VRSF supplies you with a new silicone hose that basically connects directly to that pipe. And what we wanna do is basically take your Dremel tool. I tried cutting snips. It wasn't working. It was on super tight, and it's one of these clamps that BMW uses, very specific, right? If you could break this off, perfect, but that tension is going to be on super tight. So what I did was cut a diagonal slit right here, not going through to the rubber, and then just using a flathead screwdriver and twisting it, and it just broke it right off. So be very patient when you're doing this. You don't want to cut into the pipe and have, you know, obviously a leak going on, but yeah, just be really gentle. You can take your time with this. I put my Dremel on speed 20, and I just did a quick cut and then used a flathead. Guys, we're getting super close to having the intercooler installed. Before we do, I'm gonna disconnect this plastic piece because if you see, this is your OEM piece, okay? And basically what we're trying to do is recreate this, right? Like so. That's what we're trying to do. And we want to try to mimic the fitting and the size, right? And I want to make sure it's on the, it's going like so. That's what we're trying to go for, something like that, right? Because the quick disconnect, you don't need as much room to tighten the clamp, but this you do. So this is how we're going to line it up, like so. And we will test fit everything first. This is how the intercooler is really going to fit. That's how it's going to fit. And then obviously the other pipe is going to go here. And we're going to make sure to slide on the clamps first before we get anywhere. But it's good that the cob pipe already has the worm clamp already on here. And we're gonna make sure to feed it in there and clamp it on tight. What you want to do is get it over this lip. Okay, and then get it as tight as you can. This is not plastic, so this is not going to crack. Most likely, if you do it too tight, the worm clamp is going to bust off rather than this. This is not going to bend and crack and whatnot, so you're pretty safe there. But get it tight enough. There's no like torque setting, right? You just don't want to use Gorilla Strength. It's basically a 8mm or basically a flat head. I'm going to use either or, but we'll fit everything on loosely. And then fingers crossed that it doesn't pop off. There's some nightmare stories where the intercooler hoses pop off, but we're gonna do our best not to let that happen. And this guy. Like so. Okay. Okay. That, like that. Yeah, I think that's the best bet. Right there. Okay. Right there. Here. Okay. So guys, what we're doing here, we're just mocking up the pipes. The most kind of tedious thing that we need to keep in mind is where to position the clamps, right? I know it doesn't sound like a big deal, but if we're driving and we need to make repairs to the intercooler, or we need to take it out for some reason and we can't get to these clamps, then you're kind of shit out of luck, right? You're kind of in a tough spot. So what you want to do is make sure that you have access to it. Like if I took off the fan shroud, or if I took off the electric fan, you'll definitely be able to take this off, which is a good thing. And if I put this towards the bottom, then the subframe is going to be in the way. So that's what I don't want to do. And I may reposition this so that it's facing this way, so I can get a wrench in here. Yeah, I think that's a better idea. Oops, sorry. Yep, I think that's perfect. All right, guys, we are at it again, working on the 135i. Today, we're gonna attempt to start putting back a lot of stuff, but before we get there, you know, the one thing that kind of stopped us on the track of putting on the intercooler, the front mount intercooler, is the boost pipe. And this boost pipe is on the opposite side of the charge pipe. So basically this goes to your turbo, onto the intercooler. And the thing about this, you know, the only reason I found out is that the stock pipe that's on there, you know, we had to cut the accordion piece off, the really flexible piece off. And when I did that, you know, everything seemed fine, but when I wiggled the stock pipe, there was a lot of movement. And I just couldn't accept the fact that, you know, after all this work, there could be a potential boost leak at the connection of the turbo. Super loose. I mean, this is on there, but it just goes in. It's super loose, right? And this is the right size. It should be really tight. So you see how tight this is, right? And that's how it should be on there to prevent any leaks. but I was a little bit skeptical. So we actually tested the VRSF coupler as well as the clamp. And if you crank the clamp down as tight as you can, I don't think we're going to see any leaks, but that's just the realities of it. I mean, I haven't heard anything from the people that installed the VRSF intercooler that they experienced leaks or not. I did hear that the couplers do pop off, which I don't want to take a chance on. So we're going to crank this down super tight. So let's put this aside and then take the stock pipe off. Use your pick tool. I also have a flathead. Just when I kind of pry it up, I may need to get under there with a little more force. But the boost pipe is located right on the turbo. So passenger side, okay, this is your turbo. This is basically your turbo inlet, okay? Okay, there we go. Okay, so that's off, and I'm gonna wiggle this out from the front. And just be gentle because there's coolant pipes all along here. Okay, here we go. And this is your OEM pipe. And I don't see any damage, but you can see that the inside gasket is pretty flattened out. And that's because of all the heat cycles. That turbo gets super hot, guys. When it's probably at full boost and I'm beating the living, hell out of it, it's probably seen better days. 160,000 miles. I think it's a worthwhile upgrade. Covered in grease, obviously, from all the oil leaks that was going on, from the oil cap, the valve cover, oil filter, housing gasket, you name it. The only thing that the FTP pipe does not have is this little thing. And I think this is pretty useless, in my opinion. But here we are. We're going to put the new one on. We're going to go from the front here. Okay. And I can tell right away how tight this is compared to the OEM. There we go. Okay, that's on there. So the FTP pipe comes with this coupler here, and what I did notice is that this is probably a fitting for the OEM intercooler. Like the accordion piece, it just kind of snaps in there, but we're not using an OEM intercooler. We're using a front mount from VRSF. So this is obsolete. And the reason why I have these guys facing down is because from the bottom, I can access the bolt, okay? Once you take the fan out, and well, we might not even need to take the fan out because it's positioned here and the fan's gonna sit like right here. We could probably take this off in case that we need to service the intercooler for some reason. And also the coupler up here, I'm gonna have it facing up, meaning that from the top of the engine bay, I can put a socket on here and turn this. And here, I'm probably gonna reposition this. I'm gonna take it off altogether once it's in there and reposition this, but I think this should either point this way or this way. And I'm not sure if I want to have it in the middle, but we'll see once we get the intercooler on there. Let's do that right now. So if you see, we got everything in place of the front mount intercooler. The pipes fit. We got, obviously, this is a Cobb charge pipe, FDP, motorsports, boost pipe on that side. The most important thing, make sure you have a buddy. If you don't have an extra set of hands, this is just going to be a real hassle, and you're going to be fighting this thing left and right. I had Daniel actually assist me guiding the pipes in. I think the easiest way to kind of do this is get the fan out of the way. Make sure that you have plenty of space to work in, right? VRSF supplies you with these little rubber spacers. I think that's to keep anything from clanking, but I don't know if you're going to be able to fit this because of how shallow it is. But let's give it a try. Okay, so we couldn't use the rubber spacers or the rubber stops or whatever that VRSF supplies you with because the bolts are so short. You're not going to get enough thread into where the intercooler needs to mount to. So we're just using the screw. I think that's going to be fine because the screw head is much bigger than I expected. And that's working out for now. It's not going anywhere. And that's not going anywhere. You need that tighter. Okay, that is super tight. I don't think that's going anywhere. So let me just do it actually one more time. Okay, that is super duper tight. That's on there. I don't think there's any chance of this thing slipping off. All right, so now that we have look at this big boy. I mean, that's massive. This is a 7.5 VRSF intercooler, the competition intercooler. And I gotta say, I'm definitely a big fan of this 7.5 intercooler. What I did notice is that the VRSF advertises the downpipe as stainless steel ceramic coated. It's definitely coated, but it is not stainless steel. I can definitely tell that it's a mild steel or something along that line. And this, you might think like this is stainless steel or something. It's not, or aluminum. This is coating. And when I was jacking this up, you know, it left a few marring and a little bit of damage on the bottom of the coating, the powder coating or the paint, but it's a nice piece for the price. You can't beat that, right? And certainly it looks fantastic. All the fins look like they should. I mean, it's a piece of metal, right? And certainly I don't think you can screw it up from a manufacturing standpoint, but definitely a quality piece. I like it. I like the price even better. So the intercooler's on here. It's not going anywhere. We're gonna be putting the bumper on.